Hey, Ty Daly here. I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk to you about an increasingly apparent and common problem where we feel like in our interactions with people, we're just giving 100% of our energy, everything that we've got. And afterwards, we feel so exhausted and drained and don't know what to do, don't know how to recover, don't know what to do about the recurring situation or the relationship. And I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about that. So, yesterday, I actually posed the question on social media about, you know, how often do you feel like you're in these situations or relationships where you're giving 100% of you, all of your energy into this conversation, relationship, situation, and afterwards you just feel exhausted. How does that feel? What does it feel? How often does it happen? And all of this stemmed from someone who posed a very similar question where she has an ongoing, daily um, responsibility that she can't avoid, but is to her completely draining. And she feels completely exhausted after she's given 100% of herself to um, this relationship. And she asked, "Well, what do you do about that? How can I? What's going on there?" And I thought about it for a little bit. And here's what I here are my thoughts on it. Okay. First, I want to be very clear that what I'm about to say doesn't invalidate anything at all. It doesn't invalidate your experience, but it's important to realize that we are 100% energy, just like the universe, the world that we live in is completely made up of energy. And if you're standing here, sitting here, if you exist to say that, "Oh, I'm so exhausted, I gave 100% of my energy to this," well, you didn't. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist anymore. Okay? What you're doing and what I'm asking you to do is when you're caught up in that thought, when you say, "Oh, I've given 100% of myself, I've given all of myself, I've given everything that I've got," you're fusing with a thought, a feeling, and a belief. And by pointing that out, I'm asking you, by pointing out the reality that no, if you're present, you didn't give 100% of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a simple statement of truth. If you didn't give 100% of your energy, if you are still here, you did not give 100% of your energy. You didn't give 100% of yourself. So realize that and gain some distance from that thought, that belief, that feeling, because that's what you're doing. You're fusing with it. You're making a thought, something that's going on in your head, and we'll get back to that too. There's a lot going on in your head with this. Um, a truth that's not. Okay? So the next thing to realize is that fatigued, feeling tired, feeling exhausted after you deal with somebody or something, especially if it wasn't a physically taxing experience, it was mentally and emotionally draining. Um, Fatigue is resistance. When we don't have the energy to go through with something or to carry through with it or after we've done something, we feel so exhausted. That's a sign of resistance to whatever it is that we were dealing with and facing and struggling with. So it's important to keep that in mind also, that there's some resistance there. And what is that resistance? See, when we face resistance, we resist the things that we struggle with. It's our shadow work there. So, what is buried in this resistance to this situation, this person, this relationship that maybe you can learn from, that you need to explore? There's some value in diving into and exploring where that resistance is and what that resistance actually is to. Now, some people might say, well, if you resist it, if it's making you feel exhausted, if it's draining you, why don't you just forget about it? Why don't you just leave the situation? Drop it. Don't deal with that person, that thing, that relationship anymore if it's so exhausting. Well, sometimes we can't. Sometimes there are relationships that to we have an obligation to, like parenting. Sometimes as parents, raising our children is exhausting and takes an incredible amount of energy and resources from us. We feel completely exhausted afterwards. We can't just avoid that. We can't abandon our responsibilities to the child, right? They're our children. It's our responsibility to raise them. That doesn't change the fact that it can be incredibly exhausting. And there's value in exploring that. Why is it so exhausting? Physically, it can be incredibly tiring running around and chasing kids, but mentally and emotionally, it's very taxing. And why? Is there some trauma? Is there some memories that we have to explore? Some things that we're avoiding dealing with? Some work that's we've buried down inside of us? Some shadow work that we need to explore? Are we not holding space or the relationship itself? Remember, there's two people involved in the relationship, and the space that we need to hold isn't necessarily specifically for us or specifically for them. It's for us. It's for the relationship itself. Um, Getting back to the brain and the brain's involvement, okay? Our brain has evolved as a super powerful problem solving machine. Our brain is great at solving problems, and that's one of the things that it does best. But let's think about it as a problem solving machine. First, what's a problem? A problem is something that we don't want. It's something that we don't want to deal with, something that we don't want to face, something that we might not have the resources to deal with right now. And a solution, the way that we solve a problem, is by removing the problem, stopping it, ending it, putting an end to the problem's existence, or by just avoiding the problem, no longer facing it, going somewhere else, doing something else. And of course, like we said, in certain relationships, in certain situations, you can't avoid the problem. So we try to stop it, we try to fix it, we try to end it, resolve it. And sometimes we don't have the resources to do so. Sometimes we don't have the skills, the time, the finances, the resources necessary to resolve and end that problem that we're facing and struggling with. So what does the brain do then? Well, now it marks that as stress. It's a stressor. And stress is something that we don't have the resources to deal with. So what does our brain do? Okay, it activates different areas of our brain, to include the pituitary gland and the adrenal system. Once the pituitary gland is activated, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Okay, it releases our cortisol, our stress hormones, and at the same time, simultaneously, decreases the efficiency of our immune system. It suppresses our immune system, which is why a lot of times after stress we feel horrible. Or during ongoing stress, we start to feel sick or more susceptible to sickness. At the same time that the pituitary gland is activated and is doing this, releasing the stress hormones and suppressing our immune system, the adrenal gland kicks in, or the adrenal system, and so our adrenaline starts pumping. We get stronger, faster, clarity, more focused. And all of this is what we call fight or flight. We're in that fight or flight response. We're either going to fight the scenario, fight the situation, fight the stressor, or we're going to flee from it. But oftentimes we forget that there's actually a third option, and that's freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. When we don't have the resources to deal with the stressor, when we don't have the resources to fight it, and we're not necessarily in a situation where we can flee from it, run from it, avoid it, we freeze. This is the same process that a lot of trauma is experienced and created through. So fight, flight, or freeze. And what do we do? How do we respond? There's a lot of health implications with ongoing stress like this. So what do we do? How do we resolve this? If we're stuck in a situation where we can't flee, avoid, resolve the stressor that we're faced in the relationship, what do? We feel 100% exhausted. And we're doing this day in and day out, over and over and over again, and we're so drained. What do? The first thing that I suggest is the first thing that I did suggest, realizing that you are not giving 100% of yourself. You're not. You're not giving 100% of your energy. That's the truth. That's a fact. You're caught up in a thought, in a belief, in a feeling, and you're fused with it. So that's all you can see. You can't see that there are other solutions, there are other possibilities, there are other things going on in the world other than what you're fused with right here and right now. And that is a huge part of the problem. So we gain distance just by realizing that. You gain distance and you can gain perspective and realize that, okay, yeah, I start to feel better because now that I realize that I didn't give 100% of myself, now that I realize that there is some distance here, now that I realize that there is a whole world out here that I can enjoy and not just be so caught up and miserable and exhausted, we start to reduce our stress already. Meditation. Mindfulness meditation is another technique and tool that I strongly recommend because it does the same thing. It helps you gain perspective by bringing your attention to everything. It's about being mindful and being aware of not just the situation that you're in, but yes, the situation that you're in and the difficulties that you're facing, which also gives you the opportunity to explore the shadow work involved there. What am I resistant to? What am I avoiding? But it also brings your awareness to everything else that's going on. All of the good things that are going on that you didn't see when you were so fused to the thoughts. All of the positive things going on around us that energize us, reinvigorate us, and give us that vitality, even when we're in the midst of a situation that we feel like we're just stuck in and we can't do anything but struggle with. We're just drowning. Your very existence, continued existence, shows that you're fine. You haven't given 100% of yourself. Gaining that perspective, that distance from it, that awareness of everything else that's going on around us, shows us that there are other solutions, not necessarily to resolve this stressor or the conflict. It might not have a resolution. We might not truly have the resources to resolve it at this point in time. But what we do have are the resources to revitalize ourselves. What we do need to do is gain that perspective, that distance, to defuse from that stressor so that we can see all of our other options. So that we can take the time to smell the flowers, to listen to the birds, to see what's going on around us that's so beautiful and revitalizing that we can continue to go on. That we can continue to face this stressor with a little bit less stress. It's not the end of us. That's what we're afraid of. That it's the end of us, that I'm just gonna keep giving everything that I've got and all of a sudden I'll have nothing left. The world, the universe, our existence is abundance. There is no shortage of energy, no lack of energy for us to tap into. We can't give 100% of us. Realize that that's a story that we're telling ourselves, that we're fusing with, that I don't have time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the resources to take care of me if I'm wasting them all on this. Feel into that, explore that, do some shadow work there, explore the feelings. Where are they coming from? Why are they coming from? They're lies that we're telling ourselves. We're not going to cease to exist. We haven't yet. So, what's the backstory behind it? And then how do we work on resolving that? Not necessarily how do we resolve this external conflict, because we might truly not have the resources to do so, but how do we resolve this internal conflict? Where are our shadows? What are our lessons here that we're avoiding because of our resistance to that situation? And that resistance is also where the difficulty is coming from as far as the energy flow. So explore that. Where is the resistance coming from? Why is there resistance? How do I resolve that resistance? Being mindful of the fact that, one, I am not fused. I'm not under any obligation to fuse to these beliefs, these thoughts, and these feelings that are causing the resistance. And two, that there is a whole beautiful, revitalizing, invigorating world around us that we can tap into because we're intimately and innately a part of it to recharge our own batteries that truly are never empty to begin with. And be mindful of everything that's going on. Be mindful of the relationship dynamics there. That's my suggestion. That's my advice in that situation. One, to realize, let me recap again. One, to realize that you're not giving 100% of your energy, or you would cease to exist. That is a thought, a belief, and an idea that you are fusing with that is simply false. It is a story that you're telling yourself that is no longer true. It's not serving you to believe that I've given 100% of my energy and 100% of myself to this person, this place, this situation, this relationship. Two, realize that the exhaustion, the fatigue, the tiredness is a sign of resistance. It's your problem-solving brain trying to push yourself away from a situation, creating avoidance, because remember, we either resolve the situation, we resolve the problem, or we avoid it. So the fatigue, the tiredness is resistance created by your problem-solving brain to avoid a situation. Explore why you're avoiding that situation. Explore why it's creating so much resistance inside of you. Are there lessons that you need to focus on and learn? And then be mindful and aware of the fact that you actually do have a lot of resources at your disposal to explore and to utilize in your own journey internally for resolving this resistance, but also to recharge your batteries continuously. There's a lot of beautiful, invigorating, and revitalizing things all around you. Tap into those, be aware of those. Don't get so caught up in that stressor that you can't see all of the beautiful and revitalizing things around you. Remember that your awareness is incredibly expansive. One of the things that I've talked about before is when I've done awareness exercises is that we get so caught up and fused with thought that we can only see what's right in front of us. We can only see that situation, that problem, that stressor. But the fact of the matter is that our awareness goes far beyond that. How far away, if we look up in the sky, how far away is the sun? If you go outside at night, if you went outside last night during the full moon, how far away is the moon? How far away are the stars that you're looking at? Think about that. How far away are these things that you can see, that you're aware of visually? Your awareness doesn't stop 6 inches from your face. It doesn't stop as far away as the cell phone that you're holding or the computer screen. It doesn't stop at the edges of the room that you're sitting in. Your awareness is huge. Keep that in mind and realize that, and you'll realize that you have resources, you have an infinite supply of resources available to you, not just what you have at the at arm's length. Not just what you have in the room with you, but what's in the universe with you. Those are your resources. That's where your abundance is that can help you resolve this internal conflict. Okay? So I hope some of those thoughts, some of that rambling made sense and was helpful and can help you get through some of these stressful situations or relationships where we feel like we're just giving so much of ourselves that we don't have anything left afterwards. The truth of the matter is that you do have something left afterwards. The truth of the matter is that there's just some resistance that you need to explore in there, why you're feeling the resistance, and do some shadow work. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. And we will talk soon. Okay? Bye.